Councillor Yake is not going to join us, so we have quorum. Thanks for joining us, Brian, and everyone else joining us for our broadcast this morning. I will call the meeting to order, and I have an adoption of the agenda. It'll be moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Milne and seconded by me, that the agenda for the February 2nd, 2021 Township of Wellington North Recreations Park and Leisure Committee meeting be accepted and passed. All in favor? Thank you. That is passed. I do not have a pecuniary interest in any of the subjects today. Do you either, Councillor Milne?
No, Mr. Chair, I do not.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the previous meeting, they were approved by council on December 14th. I don't have any business arising from it. How about you, Matt or Brian?
No, sir.
No.
I'll move those minutes be adopted.
Perfect. Thank you. I will second that. And all in favor? Away we go. So, Matt, I will pass it over to you for the COVID-19 facility discussion, please, and thank you.
Yep. So, thank you, Chair McCabe. I think the big question is keeping ice in. I think it's a hard question, but I also think that, I guess from a staff recommendation standpoint, I'd probably recommend that we pull the ice out at both facilities. We could wait till we could start it today. We could start it February 11th. We can start it in the future too. I don't see us getting to a point where we're having the ice in. Makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to throw that out to committee and just see what committee thinks, because really at the end of the day, I'm okay either way. But yeah, that's probably the big COVID-19 update. I think that's the question that's out there, and I think that's a question that lots of municipalities are sort of struggling with.
All right, thanks, Matt. Brian, what are you guys doing?
The ice in Dundalk is out.
Okay.
Well, we shut the compressor off, so I mean, the ice may or may not be still there. It probably is still there, but the compressor's shut off.
Okay.
I just had two questions, and it was much the same questions I had in our own municipality here. Was it one was what's it costing us every day to keep that ice there, and number two, if we let the ice out, do we have work to redeploy any staff that would normally be maintaining that ice in that facility? Or do we lay people off?
Go ahead, Matt, and then I'll let you go, Tom.
Yep. Yeah, and through you, Chair McCabe, I can answer the second question, which isn't an answer that we like to have, but I think some of the part-time staff, there's implications. And I know Tom knows better than me as it relates to how much it costs to keep the ice on. So Tom will be able to respond to that better than me.
Well, even through you.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom, please.
We've redeployed 2 of our part-time employees. They're over to Works Department now. So we are down to 4 part-timers. And 3 full-timers are still staying on. That's what's right now, that's what's looking after the buildings, checking compressors, doing some painting and some repairs, the stuff we can do. As for costs, I figured out the way we have it, we've turned our compressors up. The ice temperatures now 25.5 and 26 degrees in the 2 facilities. We've reduced as much hydro consumption as we can. In Mount Forest, it's approximately $120 a day. And in Arthur, approximately $75 per day. Or if you look at it per week, for the 2 facilities, about $1,400 per month, about $5,600 to run them the way we're running them right now. Colder temperatures, of course, help. We're getting back into a warm spell here, so compressors are gonna kick on a little bit more. As far as work, yes, we can find inside work Over the last little while, staff in Arthur have repainted the complete upper hall in Arthur. We have work in the lower hall and in the lobby that we can do. In Mount Forest, same thing, wall painting, touching up where we would not have got to it before. We will keep them busy that way until we reopen and we get some bookings in, and then we'll bring the part-time staff back.
It seems like there's some work that always needs to get done that kind of falls to the wayside that's getting done right now then, Tom.
Yeah, it's just like your house or my house. There's always a honey-do list, right?
Yeah, that's for damn sure. No, I didn't hear anything new, and maybe I might have missed it, but I don't think I've heard of the February 11th deadline being extended by Premier Ford. Did anyone else hear that?
If I could comment, Mr. Chair, I haven't heard of any extensions to this point, but my hunch would be that because the government seems to be rather sensitive to opening up too soon, too quickly, I'm guessing that they will extend it. The numbers are certainly going, the COVID numbers are certainly going the right direction, but they're still way above where they were back in the summer. So I'm thinking they're going to extend it, and I just don't see any clear path to using the ice surface anytime soon.
That looked like you were going to say something too.
No, I agree with what Member Milne said, and yeah, I agree.
So do we keep it in until at least the 11th, or you want to go ahead?
I'm completely comfortable if this committee thinks it's the right decision to start working it out, as far as working it out of the facilities. But I'm okay too if from your standpoint, Chair McCabe, you want to bring it to council on Monday of next week. Like we're not 120 bucks a day or the numbers that Tom had given. Like it's not. We can run it through council next week. I don't think we're going to get a different comment. I don't think we're going to get a different comment. So.
Or a different outcome either, likely.
But keeping it in for a week isn't the end of the world either. Like I know Tom's guys have reduced the cost as much as you can. So sorry.
Nope, that's all right. Go ahead there, Tom.
Just a little more information. I might as well give it to you because I have it. Some of the other places, it's nice to hear that what they're doing in Dundalk, they're out too. Grand Valley is out. Hanover is out. Durham is out, or West Grey is out. Hairston has pulled one of their pads. Drayton is out. I've got a list of the ones, and I was just going around the ones that are close to us. It's scattered all over southwestern Ontario as to who's out and who's not, and other groups are making decisions today too. They must have their rec meetings today too. So it's kind of the information we have.
All right, thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to suggest, if we're not 100% sure, and how could we be, what the province is going to do, I would recommend that we give a recommendation to your council that we take the ice out, but leave it until your next council meeting. And I don't want to presuppose what your council might do. So, recommend that we take the ice out to the council, and if they concur, then take it out. But if they decide to hang on, then that's their decision, of course.
And that's what I was going to suggest as well, Brian, is we can make a recommendation to leave the ice in until the next meeting, which is the 10th, which would be the 11th is the deadline. And then we can have discussion at council as well. Like I'll bring it up to discuss, and I think healthy conversation there would be good as well. But I'm all right recommending to take it out. I know employee wise, like you said, Matt, there's going to be some implications, but I mean, I don't really see any light at the end of the tunnel just yet. I know, like you said, Brian, the numbers are going the right way, but who knows? And there's no sense of us keeping the ice in if no one's there to use it. So
right.
And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but $5,600 is $5,600. So,
Yep.
And I'd love to have those numbers too, Tom, on at the council meeting on Monday as well.
Okay, yeah, that can be provided.
All right, so I imagine we would need, I guess, a motion or just a recommendation, Matt, to from the committee to council.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a verbal. I've just typed something out that probably isn't that good, but it just says that the rec committee, which I know it's a different name, receive verbal report about the arena ice situation, and further that the rec committee recommend council direct staff to remove the ice. I think that's kind of the spirit of kind of what we're talking about. My wording is very poor. I realize that.
Yeah, but the spirit is like you say there, the direction and the recommendation is, I think, kind of clear. Take the ice out.
Would you like to add a date to that?
Would I say as soon as possible? Does that sound?
Well, then that kind of ties, because as soon as possible.
Will be the day after the council meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll be the day after the council meeting, Steve.
Yep.
You're right.
that's fine.
Let's and then that coincides with so far what we have as a deadline. So.
Yep.
All right.
I'll let Steve make that motion.
I was just going to say I will move that recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That passes.
So I will send that to, I will send that to Tasha, Mandy, and Karen. And they might do a wee little bit of wordsmithing to, again, make it a little better, but thanks.
Oh, so they've worked with you before then?
Yeah. You're right.
All right. Thank you for that. Mandy, I will kind of pass it over to you to get Jim Donald on board. Has he joined us?
Good morning. Yes, he has. Jim, I'm just going to be promoting you to a panelist now. Okay, Jim, so now that you're a panelist, you should be able to share your video and your microphone.
Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Morning,
Welcome.
Mr. Donald.
Morning.
Welcome. The floor, as they say, is yours.
There he is.
Well,
In living color.
in living color, yes. Yes. Well, I appreciate and thank you for your time this morning to listen to our hopefully endeavor here. We would like to do some upgrades to the Optimus Diamond. The town has done a good job of general maintenance and keeping it up. We would like to see it upgraded. The township got a grant a couple of years ago to redo the Kinsman Diamond. And I would like to see the Optimus Diamond done up. The hardball's kind of taken over the Kinsman Diamond. And so the softball end of it's got pushed up the road to the Optimus Diamond. And we would just like to see some healthy upgrades made to the facility. I would like to see a red clay infield put down. It's safer for the kids. They slide, it doesn't cut like the stone dust does. It gives a more professional look to the facility. And I think it'd be a good attribute to the town. I have contacted a company called Marco Clay. They are out of Bright, Ontario. And discussions with them, they would come and they removed the old infield and put a new clay infield down. And they make some improvements to home plate in the pitcher's mound, which we all know get dug down about 6 or 8 inches. And then every time it rains, the water sits in there. And they've developed a procedure that they do to harden them up. They actually go and dig them down 4 inches, and then they put bricks in there. And then the water kind of seeps down through the bricks, and then they cover it, of course, again with 1.5 inches of the red clay material. So when they go in there and somebody thinks they want to dig down, well, as soon as they go down the first time, they're on rock solid ground, and they quit digging. And if we can keep it up, part of the injury problem with home plate is the outside gets dug down and somebody slides in, and then their cleat catches the bottom side of the plate, and the ankle goes or whatever. So so that's what goes on there. And I would also like to see, if anybody's played ball at the Optimus Diamond, we have that foot gap underneath the gate behind first base, where every time a ball is thrown or hit on the ground, it likes to run out there and across the track and out into the trees. And so I'd like to see that portion of the fence put a proper gate in, like we have down at the Optimus Diamond, so they can still get in and out with the tractors and whatever. So timeline, these guys say they can do their work in a week. They tell me less, but I give them the benefit of the doubt and say a week. And if we have drier ground up here and it's a normal spring, they would come before ball season would start, and a week to get it in and done. And then it should probably set for a week or so and then be lightly used. And then it would be ready to go. So cost wise, my sister and I, we would look after 100% of the cost of putting it in. So there would be no cost passed on to the township or the municipality for doing the work. The upkeep, of course, would go back to the municipality. So we would look after that 100%. And I guess that's about all I can tell you. The other thing is that we would like some name recognition. Like, it's been the Optimus Club for I don't know how many years, but we don't have one anymore in the municipality that I know of. Maybe, Paul, do you know if there is one?
I don't think so. No.
No. And so, just kind of a naming rights thing or whatever we put on the deputation we sent in like 20 years, but that's just, a starting point type thing. The other thing I know, and Tom's not there now, but Minor Ball is wanting to put dugouts there, like was put down at the Kinsman Diamond, or shelters over the bench. Not when we think of dugouts, think of something in the ground. We don't want that, but build 2 structures like what they have down there for the benches for the kids to. It's not so much to hide from the sun, it's to keep a foul ball from coming down on their heads when they're not paying attention to what's going on. But that's a completely separate deal. I've talked to Minor Ball about that, and we've had a conversation or so. But Scott Corrigan will be in touch with you about that. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Well, thanks very, very much, excuse me, Jim, for your deputation this morning and your generous offer. That's amazing. I think that's why our community and the township as a whole, Wellington North as a whole, has great community residents and spirit, and this is something that's incredibly generous. So I thank you and your family for coming up with this to begin with. Tom, do you have any questions, or Matt, do you have any questions regarding the clay? Like, is it safer than what we have for gravel right now? Go ahead, Matt.
Yep, yeah, through you, Chair McCabe. I guess I would just ask if staff could bring a report back to the next Recreation Committee meeting as it relates to the proposal. Again, I agree 100% that Mr. Donald's proposal is, anyway, a big benefit to the community. I think staff need time to soak it up, and could comment back, can comment back as it relates to it. I've heard clay, the only thing I've heard is that clay, you need to water it down, and I don't know if we have a water it down machine, sort of, but that's really poor language, so.
The watering down, I stopped in Shallow Lake and they have a red infield. And the reason they water it down is to keep the dust down. And what they do up there, they take a bag or so of calcium and they use like a fertilizer spreader or whatever, and they just spread it on top and then just not trowel it, but just work the infield like you would if you were just doing normal maintenance, and you work it a couple times, and it would happen to have a shower come along at the right time, then that's all you need to do. If not, then you might have to water it once just to get it to go down into the clay, and then it'll stay there. And if you have a really dry summer, you might have to do it again. And if we have a normal summer when it rains every once in a while, it's kind of like calcium your roads. If you get a rain, it comes back to life again.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yep, yeah, so my only comment, it would be nice if staff could just put together a report as it relates to this conversation, but it's, anyway, it's it's a generous offer, and it's, anyway, it would be an improvement to what's there existing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tom, do you want to weigh in? Do you have any thoughts? Or Brian?
I just wanted to add my thanks to Jim and his family for their generous offer. I will point out, Steve, that of course, Mr. Donald is a long-term resident of Southgate, so it just demonstrates how well the two communities work together. I couldn't let that go by without mentioning that. And Jim has a long history of working with minor ball in Mount Forest, and there's a lot of kids in both municipalities that owe Mr. Donald and his family a lot of thanks for the efforts they've put in over the years. So thanks, Jim, for your and your family for their offer of this. And I have no doubt that Wellington North Council will approve, but we need to go through the process and let council let staff do their thing here.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brian. And again, yeah, thank you, Jim. And Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, it's great, Jim, that your family's putting this money up, and I just seen Lois go past the screen and say hi to her for me. Yeah, no, it's great, but it would be, I'd like to look and see the maintenance. We don't have clay diamonds right now. I'd like to see, look at all that before we, so we know where we're going with it for maintenance wise. I think it's a little bit more, probably a little bit more maintenance for the staff and water content to the clay, all that type of thing. We've never had one in this community. So yeah, a report back from the staff would be a good idea, what Matt has said.
Yep, I
Great.
understand.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion? Again, thank you very much, Jim. This is an amazing opportunity for our township, and I can't thank you and Lois enough, and your family, your whole family there. I think you had mentioned your sister as well. So yeah, we'll get a report brewing from staff, and then we'll get some more information on this, and then we'll address it at another meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and again, can't thank you enough for your offer.
You're welcome.
All right, you have a good day. Thank you.
Yep.
So moving on, we are just going to go to the, excuse me, the Mount Forest Aquatics Ad Hoc Advisory Committee meeting minutes. I have a recommendation that the Rec, Parks and Leisure Committee recommend to the Council of the Township of Wellington North that the minutes of January 26, 2021 Mount Forest Aquatics Ad Hoc Advisory Committee be approved. I will say that, Brian, you moved that. I will second it, and I will open it up for
Sure.
discussion. Matt, over to you. Yep, go ahead, Matt, you're on mute.
Thank you, Chair McCabe. So the only two comments I would have is that we really tried to push, like the ad hoc committee is supposed to be a fundraising committee. So we really tried to push kind of, I guess, what the fundraising looks like for the new pool. And also I would express that there wasn't a ton of Lions representation at the meeting. And that concerns me a little, other than the fact that I think council is committed to replacing the pool. Any special features or differences from what exists today probably need to be fundraised for. That'd be the only thing I would say.
All right, did they, they had quorum at their meeting, and then obviously, I guess, Matt, okay, that's good. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think, not to be presumptuous, but I think we will have to replace that pool at some point, and then any like extras that you speak of, Matt, I think that would probably be perhaps on the Lions, but I can't speak to them either, so we'll kind of take this as it comes. Any other questions or discussions around this meeting at all? Okay, thank you. We'll move in. I guess we should. All in favor?
Yeah, you got to vote, I think.
Yeah, thank you. That is passed.
Let it show that the vote was taken.
That's right. All right, we'll move into RPL 2021-001, and this is the Arthur Optimus Playground Design discussion. And we have a recommendation that the Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2021-001, being a report on the Arthur Optimus Playground design, and further that the Rec, Parks and Leisure Committee recommend the Council of Wellington North approve design 3 or option 3 motor skill mastery, which includes design changes discussed at the committee and noted in the minutes. You'll see some of the attachments in the overviews there as well. I will move that recommendation, and Brian, would you second that? Thank you. We are open for discussion. Go ahead, Mandy. I think you're on mute, so.
Thanks, Chair McCabe. So I'd just like to introduce you to Steve Van Meer with Park and Play. And we also have Shauna Lougheed, the president of the Arthur Optimuses Club, on the call as well.
Welcome, Shauna and Stephen. Thank you very much for making time this morning to meet with us and go through this report and the design.
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having us.
Morning.
I would say, Steve, I think the floor is yours. Or Matt, do you want to comment before we get rolling, or can we pass it over to Steve? And
Yep. No, I would. So I guess sorry, through you, Councillor McCabe. But for Brian's awareness, Township Council awarded this contract to Park and Play, and they put forward 3 concepts. So Steve is here to talk about concept number 3, which staff feels is the preferred concept.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. The first thing I'd like to do is thank you very much for allowing Park and Play organization the opportunity to work with you on this project. It's very exciting for us. Ontario is a relatively new market, and I say relatively new because this is our 6th year in the Ontario market, but it's actually my 20th year in the playground business. I started out in Alberta and developed the Saskatchewan market for our organization, and I thought they said, who wants to go for lunch, and the next thing I knew, I was in the Toronto airport, and I haven't left since. So we are local to the area. Our office is currently it's out of my home. I'm in Orangeville. I've got a yard in Orangeville, and our install division is from the Orangeville area as well. So we're very pleased and excited to be doing a project so close to home. So thank you for that. As was mentioned by Matt, we did submit three design options for the RFP. That was the RFP 2020-10. And I understand that it was option 3 that was basically presented to council and approved by the board. So do you want me to take a second and just kind of walk you through I guess, the design and some of the features of that?
Sure, please. That'd be great. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, perfect. So what we did was we worked with the parameters of the RFP, and we wanted to create a space that was not only accessible to AODA, but we wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to bring it up to Annex H, which is a recommendation of the current CSA Z614-20 standard, and basically bringing it into the Annex H realm of the playground world really allows us to create a multi-generational space that's accessible for all ages, all users, all abilities. And that's something very important to us when we're talking about play. Not only is it healthy for the growth and development of our children, but it's also healthy for the overall community as well. And I've always been a firm believer that by allowing children to play, we actually create healthy adults that still like to play. And I think I do think that's very important. So the design that we promoted is accessible to Annex H. We've got a fair number of elevated components that are accessible by transfer. We've also got a large number of components that are on the ground level accessible route. And this is very important because when we typically think of accessibility, normally we automatically migrate into the realm of mobility device, but there's so much more. We can be dealing with individuals that may have disabilities through a spectrum of autism. It could be through sensory deprivation, whether it's vision, hearing, it might be mobility issues, but it's not only for the children. We also wanted to create a space that was also inviting for the adult users as well. So our caregivers, our grandparents, our moms, dads, aunts, and uncles. We think that that's very important as well. Now, it's part of the overall design. What we wanted to do is we wanted to create two very defined spaces for both the younger children and the older children. So our younger children have a traditional post and deck composite structure that is accessible. And really what that's geared towards is the growth development patterns for children through play. So we're talking looping patterns, which for the little guys, if you've ever watched toddlers on a playground, it's fascinating. It's up the stairs, down the slide. It's up the stairs, down the slide. And what they do is they create these looping patterns, and it's those looping patterns that are basically going to allow them to start to have more cognitive thought process as they get older. So we wanted to make sure that we incorporated the looping challenges, but more importantly on a play structure, whether it's for a junior age group or a senior age group, we wanted to incorporate graduated levels of challenge as well. So making sure that we've got a beginning, an intermediate, and an advanced area of access basically to utilize the equipment. And it allows children to basically proceed at their own limitations, their own comfort levels, and hopefully ensure that with those graduated levels of challenge, as time goes on, the children will continue to want to come back to this play space, and it won't become stagnant or it won't become old. One of the worst things that we can ever see as a playground is just kind of stuck in the middle of the field and nobody's playing on it. To me, that's an absolute tragedy, obviously. So the little junior structure that we're dealing with, we do have a 4-deck structure, sorry. One of those is a square 36-inch deck, and then we've got 3 triangle decks that give it a little bit of shape. What we've done when we've incorporated the play into the overall site is to try to include 6 key elements of play. So we've got swinging, which of course is through a standalone swing bay. We've got sliding. On the junior structure, we have a slide. On the senior structure, we have 2 slides. We want to have brachiating, which is monkey bars. It's overhead, hand over hand, for the development of upper body strength. We want to have some spinning component in there. We also want to incorporate some climbing and some balancing as well. And one of the things that this playground, it does adhere to is a play on designation, which is basically it's design practices, best design practices based on third-party recommendation and academia. So this isn't something I've created. This is something that's come through the academic world. And those are basically the 6 components that we just talked to. So when you're promoting this park, not only can we promote the accessibility of it, but we can also promote the fact that it does adhere to those 6 key elements of play that are intrinsic to the healthy development of the child. So the junior structure does that very well. We've got a variety of climbers. We've got some overhead. We do have a roof on the structure to provide a little bit of shade, which is very important if we're talking social application or just somebody utilizing a play panel or having a little quiet, cozy corner. And then as part of that, because we did want to bring the opportunity for swinging and for the younger children as well, we incorporated a 2-bay swing set, which has a traditional tot seat, which is the baby bucket that we're all familiar with. And then it has a 0G chair as well, which is, it's an accessible seat, but can be used for, it technically can be used for the younger and the older children. It's rated for the ages 5 to 12, but I do see lots of toddlers in those seats as well. And the advantage to a seat like a 0G is that it has basically rails that are built into the body of the seat that go up the sides. So if you have a younger child or an individual that doesn't have that lateral support or the ability to hold themselves up, they can actually recline, cantilever slightly, and then that's going to help hold them up so that they can enjoy the motion of the swinging. All right. So that's something that's very important. Now, I'm going to skip the standalone components for a second, and I'm going to jump right through to the senior structure. Now, I guess one thing I should ask is, do you guys all have these drawings in front of me that I'm looking at? We do? Okay,
it was part of our package. Thanks, Steve.
Yep, we do.
All right, it'd be tragic if I'm trying to explain these structures and nobody knows what the heck I'm talking about. The senior structure, once again, we're dealing with the traditional deck in post-composite system. The difference being is that we've increased the elevation. So we brought that up a little bit higher. The junior caps out at a 3 foot. The senior, we're taking children up to a 6 foot height. Once again, graduated levels of challenge are very important. And a great example of that is the erratic climber that you see going up onto the 6 foot deck. Typically, when we're in a playground setting, we would normally see a climber that would come from the ground level. And then a child could use the climber in one of 3 different routes typically to get up to that deck. The erratic climber is a little bit different in that the child actually has to climb onto the climber from the ground level. And then the climber itself cantilevers, it comes out at an angle, it curves up, and then it attaches to the deck. So it's got a twist on it. You can either go from the inside, which is a little bit easier. You can go to the outside, which is a little bit more extended. And once again, really creating an opportunity to not only have some balance and lower body, but a lot of upper body movement in there as well. We did incorporate 2 slides on the senior structure because slides always seem to be a very popular component of a playground. And then, of course, incorporating the overhead capacity into that as well. So we did that through a Connect-Escape climber, which is allows a child to come from the ground level up to a 4 foot deck. But more importantly, that same climber also allows them to experience some upper body, that brachiating opportunity again, going into a climbing wall. And what you'll notice from the end of the climbing wall is that we've actually taken a series of stepping pods, and we've done what we've called a functionally link in the playground world over to our large sensory dome climber. And this is a really unique component in that when we talk about universal design and accessibility, this particular component was created through Time and Play Corps, but also Utah State's Center for Learning, Disability and Innovation. So we actually brought them in to basically help us design this. And once again, it's a very interesting component in that it provides for all aspects of accessibility. We've got ground level accessible route. The children can go up through it. They can go over top onto it. But more importantly is we've got components that are built into the structure that are ground level level for mobility, ground level access, or mobility access, where individuals can basically, they can experience some social interaction and tactile play in there as well. So it's geared for the ages 5 to 12, but the reality is with a component like this, especially with the ground level routes, you're going to have a mix of people that are going to be able to use this at any given time. So it really is a very unique function. The renders don't do it justice. It's a very large piece. It's very aesthetic. And at the end of the day, I mean, some people would almost classify it to almost be like play art. So, you know, really giving kind of a traditional with a little bit of a modern blend in there as well. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea of the overall equipment. Oh, one thing that I didn't talk about, of course, was we did incorporate 2 whirlwind seats. You'll notice that one is tilted, one is just a whirlwind. And the difference with that is that a tilted whirlwind seat is slightly cantilevered at the top. So when a child's on it, whether they're laying on their belly or they're sitting on it, they can spin through centrifugal force. So once the motion gets them going, they're able to continue to keep going by moving their legs in and out. So there's a little bit of an educational component and exploration in there as well. Of course, other children can spin them until they get dizzy and fall off. But on the other side with the whirlwind seat, that one's straight up and down. And the reason that one's straight up and down is that that's actually geared for ages 2 to 5 or 5 to 12. Because it doesn't have the tilt in it, it's just a little bit easier for the little guys to maneuver on it and hold their body in place as they're spinning. Spinning is very important when we're talking in the playground world, obviously because it's a sensory application and it's allowing the child to really figure out where their body is in space and time through movement. But when we take a look at the disability spectrum and we start talking about the autism spectrum, this is something I didn't know. I learned this a couple of years ago. We did a project down in Toronto for one of the autism centers. And some children with autism, when they're still, the world spins. But when they spin, the world goes still. So that's where you'll see a lot of those types of sensory components put in for accessibility, because it really does have a science behind it as well. So that kind of describes the overall play component that we're dealing with. And then, of course, the site itself, we did incorporate play curbs. So we want to make sure that when we excavate, that we've got the ability to put some drainage layer in there so that we don't have to worry about water drainage issues, geotextile layers between the different mediums. Then we're going to come up onto our engineered wood fiber. So that engineered wood fiber is going to give us our accessible surfacing option. The play curbs is going to contain all of that into a very easily maintained package for the municipality. And as part of that, we've incorporated accessible ramps, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to have an accessible playground with engineered wood fiber if we don't have a way to get people in and out of that site with ease. All right, so that's basically, that is the overall thought process behind the design, what we were able to bring to the table. Does the committee, as a group or individually, do you guys have any questions on that?
Well, thanks very much for that, Stephen, and thanks for the run through, and that really puts more context to the pictures that we have in the agenda package. I will open the floor to any questions or discussions. I think I saw you go, Matt, so I'll let you go first, and then Brian, you're next.
Yep. Oh, thank you, Chair McCabe. I would only make the comment that Shauna, as a representative of the Optimistas, is here just to provide comment on kind of the playground. I believe that she's seen the design, and I think it's important for committee to understand what the Optimistas feel as it relates to the playground that's being proposed.
Absolutely. And excuse me, and welcome, Shauna. I'll go to you next after we hear from Councillor Milne. So go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to ask the same question. I was going to ask Shauna how the Optimistas Club in Arthur feels about option 3. That's all. Thank you.
Well, Shauna, the floor is yours, and welcome, and thanks for making time.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so I've seen the pictures, and I have shown them to the other Optimistas members at our last meeting, and everybody loved the one that you guys are talking about there. We loved it. We loved the different structures. We loved how there was the different, I had it on, I'm on my phone, so I can't actually look at it because the picture's on my phone. So my apologies, but we loved it. They loved it. I think the only thing that we had talked about, and we had talked, spoke to Mandy about it, was just the colors. But I think they had, I don't know if everybody, like Steve and stuff, knew about that. But the colors, we thought the colors could maybe be changed. But other than that, we really liked it. Everybody liked it. Everybody liked the different structures. Everybody liked the sensory components and things like that. So I mean, from our side, we all loved it.
Well, that's good to hear, and thank you, Shauna. Yeah, that's one of my questions. We had kind of talked about, Mandy and Matt and I talked on Friday just a little bit about this, and one of my questions was the actual colors. Does it have to be the colors that are in the rendering, Stephen, or can they kind of pick and choose? And if that's an option, does that increase the cost or anything like that?
Absolutely, we can change the colors. What we showed on the design renders is just a conceptual. We wanted to keep it natural as based in the RFP. But at the end of the day, we can mix and match, and we do have the ability, if you guys want to play around with colors a little bit. I don't have the exact structure, but we have, I have what's called a color wizard, and we can go in and we can actually take a modeling of a playground and we can play with the different palettes that Game Time has. When we're talking colors, the sky's the limit within the realm of the colors that we have. There is no upcharge for changing. We've got some palettes. Our office in Calgary, they call it Crayola. It is literally every color that we have in our color palette. I like to call it the dog's breakfast. Color is so subjective. Some people are looking for something that's more traditional. They want something that's going to be, maybe more of the standard color palettes that we used to see. The reds, the yellows, the greens, the blues. But we've got a lot of vibrant colors that we can bring into the mix now. We've got some really nice, more neon-like colors. We've got some pastels. We can be as creative as you want. And I know that obviously with the Optimist Club, and Mandy and I did have a little conversation about this, but if I remember correctly, the colors for Optimist is a purple, white, and yellow. And then I think the town colors, we've got white, well, it's up there, I think. Is that the same from the Township of Wellington? Is that the town of Arthur? Is that their colors as well? Because I think there was a blue in there.
Kind of.
Yeah, okay. So that's something that we can definitely take a look at. And that's something that we can do as a group if you want to take a look at those colors, or we can do it more as a smaller committee. You guys kind of let me know what you want to do with that, and we'll make it happen for you. There really is no right or wrong. It's subjective. We do want to make sure, of course, that we have the color options in place before the order goes into manufacturing, because that will hold it up. So we need to be cognitive of that.
Yep, of course, and thank you for that, Stephen. And thanks. It's nice to hear that it can be a work in progress and get the colors that we would like. Did you have any more questions, Shauna?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of for the actual play structure at all.
Okay, thank you. Matt, I saw you come on board, so go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Chair McCabe. I would just say that staff will work with Park and Play to get the colors right. And I would also say that Mandy's going to know the Optimist's colors better than Matt Aston. But we'll work through that. And for sure, I think the vision of the committee is what I'm hearing is that we want the colors to reflect the Optimist's, which I think is what staff has been working towards. Is that fair statement?
I would agree with that, Matt, for sure.
Absolutely. Don't let Matt pick the colors, please.
You've seen my hair, so.
Yeah. Don't feel bad, Matt. I'm usually not allowed to pick colors either, so we're in this together.
I guess I have, if there's no other questions, I've got a couple for you, Stephen, if you want to indulge me. The timelines is 8 weeks. Is that pretty tight? Does that allow for some bad weather and,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. The one thing that we can't control, of course, is Mother Nature. We never know. 2019, we had a lot of rain in the spring, and then 2020, I've heard something about a virus that's been affecting our schedules.
That was my next question.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully 2021, everything's going to settle out for us. Typically in the manufacturing process with game time, normally we go kind of on a 4 to 6 weeks. I like to give us that 4 to 8 weeks window just to make sure that, we do cover our bases. The equipment, basically how the process works on our end is once we have everything finalized with respect to the equipment and the colors, I submit the project into manufacturing. Manufacturing does all my cut sheets for me and basically puts together my installation details. Once those come in, I create a package for our installation division that goes off to the side. My install manager, he's going to take a look at that and start to make sure that he's got everything in place for the overall project. Behind the scenes, game time is busy manufacturing the equipment. Once the equipment is manufactured, it's created. All of the equipment comes from game time. It arrives at my yard here in Orangeville, and it's basically stored until we're ready to install. And depending on the size of the projects that are coming in, typically I'll have a 53-foot truck come in, and I can have anywhere from 1 to 6 playgrounds on that truck, depending on size. So we keep all of that. We stage it. When we get a little bit closer to the install date, of course, we've got our process with our first calls. We're going to come out, we're going to do our site visits, we're going to start to lay out, we're going to run our surveys, work, of course, with the municipality to ensure that everything is going in at the right location. Then we'll come in, we'll fence the overall site, and we'll begin the construction. So the 4 to 6 weeks is kind of the manufacturing time frame. Once the equipment's in, we want to get that installed, obviously, as quickly as possible for the group, whether that's 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, weather dependent might slow us down a little bit. We're going to work with the municipality as much as we can with respect to that. What's very important to understand, though, is that once the process does begin, we do not leave the site until the playground is completed. So it's not a case where I'm going to come in, I'm going to excavate, and then I'm going to send my guys to go excavate another, and then another, and then another, and then we're going to leapfrog all of these projects at the same time. Obviously, we don't want to leave construction sites abandoned. We want to make sure that we can get in and we can get out in a timely fashion. I fully anticipate with the scope of this project, I figure that we're probably looking at the better part of a week, maybe a week and a half, to basically have it in place from start to finish on the build side. Of course, once the project is completed, we'll bring in third-party inspection so that we can make sure that we've got a second set of eyes on our guys who are also certified inspectors and installers. And then, once the third-party inspection has been approved and the municipality is happy and the optimists are happy, at that point, the fencing can come down and you can basically work within the parameters of your grand opening.
Great, thank you for that again. I got just another quick one. What's this engineered wood look like? Because I know that's Matt and Randy and I were chatting about it. There's a local public school here in Kenilworth, and they had kind of pea gravel in all of their playgrounds, and they had to have that all removed, and now it's wood shavings. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, wood will rot at some point, and then it's an ongoing thing to have to replace and maintain. But just when you said engineered wood, can you speak to that a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I think I've got a sample. Just give me 1 sec.
Sure.
Okay. So engineered wood fiber is it is an approved surfacing under the CSA Playground Spaces standard. And what it is basically it's engineered wood fiber, it's Fibar, it's Ziegler. There's a million different trade names for it. But at the end of the day, this is what you're looking at. It is nothing more than wood chips. But the wood chips, basically, they have to be milled and cleaned to a certain specification as outlined in the standard. So it's not your typical go down to the local greenhouse and basically get them to send you a truck of mulch and put it in. Right. What will happen is you'll have too many organics in that, and over time you are going to see a lot of rot come up from the bottom. Now, the idea with engineered wood fiber is that really what it allows for is the product, when it's put in and you get some rain on it and it's used, it's going to start to mat together. So that matting is what's going to allow mobility devices to basically navigate throughout that site. Pea gravel, man, I've used a lot of pea gravel in my life. I remember when I kid, when they would basically give me pea gravel for free, and all of a sudden construction boomed and concrete got expensive, and I got to pay a premium for this stuff. But pea gravel is also an approved surfacing material, but it doesn't provide that accessibility.
Right.
And that's really what we're looking for. So a couple of things that you need to be aware of is that when your engineered wood fiber comes in, we always bring it up to the top level, and it is compacted as it goes in, but over time it's going to settle. All right, so you're going to find that occasionally you may have to do what's called a top up. And the top ups aren't hard to do. You can either have it delivered and it can go in with man and machine, or you can use a blower truck, and you can basically have a blower truck put that in. So that's going to be your typical ongoing maintenance with respect to the product deteriorating. What's really going to be important on engineered wood fiber is making sure that you got that drain rock down at the bottom of your pit, because that's going to allow the water basically to flow down, and it's going to allow it to basically percolate back down into the substrate. As long as your pit isn't sitting in that standing water 24/7, you aren't going to see a lot of rot with the engineered wood fiber. So it is milled to a certain specification. There are certain companies that we utilize to bring that in. There's mills basically down in the States. There's mills in Northern Ontario. There's some in Quebec. There's some out west. We source the material based on the location of the mills that we're dealing with. So the company that I think we've specified for this particular project was Fibar. I deal with Andy and Alex, oh goodness, probably 30, 40 times a year. Very, very good organization to deal with. Now, the only thing that you will find with your engineered wood fiber is that, and this is going to be the same as with your pea gravel and your sand, is because it is a loose fill surfacing, any area where you're going to have a high impact contact with feet in your surfacing, you're going to start to get a little bit of a divot in there. So the bottoms of your slides, obviously your swings, we've all seen what happens when kids go back and forth on swings and drag. So with those types of areas, as part of the regular maintenance of the site, the guys and gals that go in are going to want to basically just, maybe have a rake with them in the truck and just rake those level at any given time. Doesn't have to be done daily, doesn't even necessarily have to be done weekly, but it's something that should be looked at. Now, likewise, also included with this is that it wasn't underneath the slides, but underneath your swings, we've actually also included wear mats. So what that is the wear mat is basically, it's a rubber mat that's anchored into the ground. The wood fiber goes just underneath or just on top. And then what will happen is the children swing back and forth. They aren't going to create those divots. Their feet are just going to basically drag on the mat. You're still going to have the head and back attenuation, but it's going to limit the maintenance for you guys a little bit as well.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. Matt, you look like you might have had a question there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say that from an operations standpoint, we're not super excited about the wood chips, but that's the de facto standard. Other than sort of plastic pads, I think they are, or something. So there's no. Anyway, I would say from an operations standpoint, we like sand, but from an accessibility standpoint, as far as meeting the CSA standard, we need to install wood chips, and there is going to be an ongoing operational cost, but it's not super significant. It's just, wood is going to rot. So
yeah.
But anyway, that's the only comment I wanted to provide.
All right, thank you for that, Matt. Brian, do you have any comments or questions, or you're not going to try the tilt-a-whirl out or the?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Any other Tom, Mandy, Shauna, last crack at this? Go ahead, Mandy.
Thank you, Chair McCabe. I just, if possible, like to give an opportunity to Shauna just to speak to some of the upgrades they are proposing for the pavilion. I know in conjunction with the playground renovations, they're also planning to do some renovations to that pavilion.
Thank you. Go ahead, please go ahead, Shauna.
Yeah, we thought with this new park, we might as well kind of upgrade the Optimus Pavilion, which is right in front of the park there. So we are getting a new sign put in with our new logo on the top, because the one that's up there was put up there when the pavilion was built. So that should be done the first week of April. And we already have the proposal and everything from a sign company, and I forwarded it to Mandy and all that. So they said to go ahead. So that's first week of April. We want to get new picnic tables for in there. And we also were thinking we might see if we can get put a ramp, because it is a concrete pad, but it does have a bit of like a lip. So to handicap and even moms with strollers, things like that. So a ramp is possibly, and then I think we're just gonna put a little elbow grease into it, us ladies, and just, maybe stain the posts and things like that, because we don't need to do a brand new pavilion, but just kind of,
Touch
make it
up
look
a
all
bit.
pretty to go with the new pretty park.
Fair enough. Well, that sounds great, and again, thank you for those upgrades to the pavilion that's there already. Is Matt and Mandy and Sean, I guess you can all you've already chatted about this, about where that ramp would go for accessibility into the pavilion?
Yeah, us ladies have gone up there and we have a couple different spots, but we haven't done anything with that yet. That was just something that we had kind of talked about at our meeting, because we just thought that it might be, but I've spoken to Mandy about it. So we said that if and when we decide to do that, then we would, keep them in the loop and go up there. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Matt or Mandy, were you gonna chime in or no?
Yeah, through you, Chair McCabe, I would just say that the Optimistas have been a really good partner. So yeah, no concerns from a staff perspective.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? Well, I will thank you very much, both Shauna and Steve, for the rundown. And it's great when you can have a rec meeting that involves our two urban centers with community members that want to pitch in and make recreation better in our township. So I thank you for that. Thank you very much for your presentation, Steve. And thank you very much, Shauna, for your participation and an ongoing participation with the staff as well to make this possible. So I hope you can convey that back to the Optimistas.
Yes, for sure.
Great. Well, we have a recommendation on the floor. I will call for a vote. All in favor? Thank you, Brian. That has passed. And thank you very much again for your time, making the time this morning, and look forward to maybe at some point, Stephen, maybe meeting you in person on site. So.
Oh, we'll see each other with a mask on anyways. So.
Yeah, I'm probably better for me to wear a mask at all times, but
yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for this, and thanks. Have a great day, and thanks again, Shauna, for your time.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
Bye for now. All right. Thank you for that. We will move on to RLP 2021-002 rates and fees for 2022. We have a recommendation that the Rec and Parks and Leisure Committee receive for information report RPL 2021-002, being a report on the 2022 recreation rates and fees, and further that the Rec, Parks and Leisure Committee recommend the Council of Wellington North approve the 2022 recreation rates and fees. I will ask Brian to move that. I will second that, and then I will open the floor and hand it over to you, Matt.
Yep. Thank you, Chair McCabe. Yeah, really the only, so it's a modest increase, I think. And the only real question is what committee feels about advertising. And I think as staff, we have struggled with advertising. So the idea that I represent Company A and I put an advertisement up in the Mount Forest Arena in 2020, what we're currently thinking is that we're only going to charge you 50% in 2021, but maybe that's not appropriate. I I think 2020 has been a challenge, and 2021 potentially is more of a challenge. I think that's kind of the punchline, but if I can, I'll throw it over to Mandy, or I'll defer it to Mandy to better articulate what I just tried to say. Because Brian, he doesn't understand what I say is what I heard earlier. So
Yeah, please, Mandy, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Chair McCabe. So in regards to the advertising, piece for our facilities, in Arthur in 2020, our advertising income was $5,749. For 2021, we budgeted $3,000. For Mount Forest in 2021, our income was $15,662, and we budgeted $8,000 for 2021. So just as our business community has been hit very hard due to the provincial lockdowns, and as the future remains unclear regarding our facilities, it is a difficult conversation for staff to have. We typically send out our advertising invoices in January. So in 2020, our advertising invoices went out at the beginning of January for that following year. As you're aware, excuse me, as you're aware, the facility was closed for about 50% of the year, or not accessible to the general public. And with 2021, we're not quite sure what the facility usage will look like as well. So that's the conversation around the advertising. In regards to the rates and fees, there's as Matt said, a modest increase, 3.5% increase overall on most fees. That's to do with recovering costs associated with Perfect Mind, Moneris to allow online credit card payments. And then also, I apologize, also a general cost of living increase. So in particular, staff wanted to bring attention to committee regarding the Damascus Community Hall. That was increased from $88.50 per day to $100 per day. And that was through our agreement with the Damascus Hall Board. We also removed the holiday premium. So in previous years, we've had a holiday premium for every rate and fee we have. What we did this year is we put in a standard $20 per hour for holiday bookings. Our same day ice booking, that rate has remained at the 2021 rate, so $60 a day. So that's if somebody wants to go in and use the ice that day, then that's the $60 per day. And that brings it in line with the school rental fee as well. Our baseball tournaments, we did not, prior to 2022, we did not have a separate adult tournament fee and minor ball tournament fee. So what we've done for 2022 is we've added an adult tournament fee, which reflects a $30 per game increase over, or $30 per day increase over the minor tournament rate to recoup some of our costs. Typically, adult baseball tournaments, those run fairly early in the morning until fairly late at night, where the minor ball games or ball tournaments typically end a little bit earlier in the day. The seasonal rate for soccer, so the manager of rec services, Tom, he's going to be discussing with Minor Soccer Association just to find out if they want to continue with the seasonal rate or if they want to change to a per game rate. Right now, the current seasonal rate reflects approximately 225 games a year. So if they're not quite hitting that, if their registration has dipped or for whatever reason, then it might be more advantageous for them to go to the per game rate. And then we've also added in 2022 unserviced pavilions. So the hourly fee for an unserviced pavilion, such as Murphy Park and Mount Forest, would be $19 per hour. And for a full day rental of, say, the Murphy Park, it would reflect the same price as either the Damascus Hall or the Con Pavilion at $100 a day. And then finally, sponsored programming for both swimming and for public skating. We decided, or we've put a recommendation forward that it remain at the 2021 fee. And that's because many sponsorships were canceled in 2020. It's still yet to be determined what's happening in 2021. So we thought maintaining it at that 2021 rate, it might entice more future sponsorships in 2022.
Perfect, thank you for that. And I know that we kind of chatted about the Perfect Mind, and can you speak to that just a little bit, Mandy? I know with the cost recovery and stuff like that, but some of the what I would call advantages to moving to credit card.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Chair McCabe. So with Perfect Mind, our residents and guests will be able to book online. So if you're interested in booking a facility, you'll be able to go onto our Perfect Mind landing page. You can see what's available. You can put in a tentative booking. Then Tasha would be able to double check. Tasha, Tom, George or Nick or myself, we'd be able to go in and double check that everything is filled out to what we require. Is there alcohol going to be sold? How late? What is the table set up? Those types of things. And we will be able to confirm those bookings after that. And then with our programming, so somebody would be able to go online and book a child in for day camp for the whole summer. They'd be able to pay online rather than needing to come into the office. So previously we've required anyone who's interested in coming in booking a facility or in doing programming, they'd need to come into Kenilworth and they'd have to fill out the documentation and then provide us with a check. Now there's going to be the option to be able to pay online, which is great.
Yeah, I think that, and I think it's a fantastic idea, and then the public can actually see what is and what is not available for booking. So thank you for that. And yeah, there is I think we just discussed it last Friday, just how there is a difference with minor ball and then adult tournaments, and kind of hoping that there is a availability to have some tournaments in Arthur this year and all over the province for that matter. But hopefully we can get out and yeah, just be active again. Any other questions or comments regarding this recommendation?
Just one, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Please go ahead.
And I have no issue with any of the increases per se. I just wanted to comment maybe on the notion of the advertising rates in the arenas and so on. Yeah, the statement was made that small business has taken a hit, and there's no question about that. I'm just wondering, the Township of Wellington North, no different than every township in the province, did get some COVID mitigation funding from the province. I'm wondering if that or some of that could be used to mitigate, the
Like offset some of the costs, you mean?
exactly. And maybe not charge the businesses at all in 21 for their advertising. I don't know what the advertising budget was, how much the revenue was for the year, but I think something should be done there. I know there is some COVID mitigation funding available for businesses, but it's different levels of business get different levels of funding, and it's quite a process. Whereas the township has received that money. And I know there's no shortage of places for that money to go, but this might be a good spot to use some of it.
Go ahead, Matt. Maybe you want to turn your mic
You're
on,
muted,
please.
Mr. Aston.
Anyway, I think that's a comment that I had not thought about, and I'd have to talk to the treasurer, but that is maybe not an opportunity, but just kind of a way to offset the cost, because certainly but I guess what I'm asking committee is committee okay with continuing the 2020 advertising in 2021 because of the hardship in 2020? And then, but I understand what you're saying, Brian, and I agree with it, but I had never thought of that, and I'd have to ask the treasurer kind of how those funds can be used, but it makes a lot of sense to me what you're saying.
Thanks, Matt.
It's always easier to give direction than to ask permission, but you do what you need to do.
I can see Mike Gibbons itching right now, so to ask.
Well, Mike would be 100% behind this. Sure, no problem. He'd say he'd be good with that.
Yeah,
he's not here to defend himself. So
I'm just going to ask him the question what he thinks. Mandy, is there a way you can put him on to attendee?
He's an attendee, so no, I think Mike's. Anyway, I should let Mike speak for himself. But I
haven't heard him yelling from here.
Oh my goodness! No, don't say stuff like that. Come on.
Hi, Mike, and welcome. I knew it.
Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
Morning, everybody. I'm well. How's
It's
everybody
all
doing?
good. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
So what are you guys talking about?
Oh, we're just spending some of your money.
They're beating up on me, Mike.
So
With good
I did.
reason.
Yeah, I was working on something else, but I was listening a little bit. I think Matt's
Sorry, I didn't
comment.
mean to just call you in, but
No,
I figured
that's okay. No,
yeah.
the safe restart funds, I think, are basically established to offset operating losses. That's the initial assessment that the province kind of wanted us to look at. The challenge we get into is that it was initially to be 2020, and they haven't really clarified what 2021 necessarily looks like. A lot of us are assuming that any dollars that we got last year, 2020, would still be eligible for 2021 losses, and are making that assumption as we kind of move ahead. But we haven't received that clarification yet from the province. But my estimation and is that, the advertising losses that we're considering or potentially considering would be an eligible expense. And I know there's a lot of unknowns as it relates to 2021, and maybe the staff related to recreation want to give consideration to the timing and whether or not we're billing the full amount now or we're waiting to see what happens. We're sending a note to the people that we typically have advertising saying we recognize 2021 as an unknown. We'll be back to you when things change or our facilities open up, to give us some leeway in that, in what that necessarily looks like. But just off the top of my head, 9:45, this is when my brain is at peak performance, I'm sure. So
That's why I asked.
You're totally caffeinated. Yep.
absolutely. Yeah. So, and the other part as it relates in committee, you guys have had a good conversation around the fees and charges. There's never a good time to make changes to fees and charges. You guys all know that as elected officials. 3.5%, I've heard staff say, is a modest increase a number of times. That's great that they use those wording, though that will not be seen as a modest increase by the people paying the fees at this time. You guys know that, but we're talking about 2022 as it relates to the fees. So that would be my comment around the overall fees and charges.
There you go,
All right.
Mr. Chair. Done and done.
Thanks, Mike. And that's one of my things, is to make sure that advertising loss or potential loss, which we know we're going to have, does fall under that mitigation funding. So thank you for that, Mike. Matt, you've got your hand up.
Yep, and thanks, Chair McCabe. I guess my only comment would be the 3.5 is in the context that people are going to get to pay for with credit card now, and that's a different service level than that's been provided previously. Anyway, but I realize it's not 3.5 is a big number, but I think a component of that is that now you can pay by credit card, and that's a service level increase.
Yeah, and I think that will probably cover the cost of the credit cards that we get charged back from the credit card companies as well. So would we need some sort of a direction to staff, Mike, then, to look at the advertising loss and if we can put it in under the mitigation, or will it kind of look into that further, or?
Yeah, I think, Chair McCabe, I think at this point, I think Mandy indicated typically the idea of the advertising is it's invoiced out in January, and I assume that hasn't happened at this point. And maybe it's fair for the committee to ask staff to do some further review as it relates to the Safe Restart funds and the eligibility for that type before a decision has to be made, what the advertising fee is going to be.
Perfect. Excellent. So that's, I don't think we need a recommendation. That's the direction to staff, I think, is clear. Thank you for that, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to change as it relates to the overall fees and charges, like what they are. It's whether or not we charge them, and that's a decision we can make operationally. So.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, and thanks for bringing that up, Brian, as well. Are there any other questions before we call for the recommendation that's on the floor? Going once, twice? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. That recommendation is passed. And we'll go to you, Matt, for the Damascus Hall and Arthur Senior's correspondence.
Yep, yeah, and through you, Chair McCabe. Those were more just awareness things. Those are letters that have been sent to Arthur Senior Center and the Damascus Hall. They say the end of April. Hopefully the end of April is a bad date, but anyway, those letters have went out in case anyone on committee gets kind of questions about them, is really the reason they're included.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I agree with you. I hope that that date isn't a proper date, and I hope we don't have to push it out further than that, but I'd rather have a date that's off in the distance than have to revisit this every month and push them out every month. So hopefully that end of April is we can be back to some sort of a normal and some sort of a rental opportunities for both of these halls. All right, thank you for that. Any questions or comments on that? Great, thank you. And we'll go right to the 2021 budget for ICE. So, Matt?
Yep, thank you, Chair McCabe. Just we're looking to get an engineer to design kind of what the Arthur Arena floor upgrade looks like. So that was approved as part of the 2021 budget. And we're looking to figure that out. Because really, if there's no lacrosse this spring, that's the time to do that upgrade. And as staff, we're very cognizant of that.
Good. I think we had a quick discussion on that on Friday. It's not that COVID's great, but at least there's no one on the floor right now, and we can take this time to redo it and have it in great shape if and when we can get back to lacrosse, and then obviously hockey as well. So, any questions or comments from the committee on that? Matt?
Yeah, just that it's a good news story that council has endorsed that project, because it's a project that is needed. Anyway, and staff is working hard to deliver that project.
Yeah, thank you for that, Matt. And it is a good project, and I'm glad that our council, like this committee, has the foresight to plan for the future. And we're down right now, so we might as well upgrade. And it's, I think, a fortuitous time that we can get this done while it's not in the middle of anyone's season. So.
Yeah, and I guess the only other thing I would say is, from a timing standpoint, depending on what the quote looks like, I might bring it through council instead of this committee, unless this committee has a big issue. But the idea is I'm trying to get an engineer or an architect, and I think it's going to be an engineer who can design it. And depending on the number, I might go straight to council with that, just to save 2 weeks, which may or may not be, the committee here may or may not like that, and I'm okay with either way. I just wanted to say that to you, because that's kind of what I'm working on.
I'm actually kind of all right with that, Matt, to be honest with you, because I mean, it was a vote for our operational budget on the township level, so it's already been approved. So I think that has to go straight to council. So, all right, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on that? Well, seeing none, we'll go into the new business, and I'm going to pass it right to you, Mandy, and then we'll go around the table after you're done.
Sure. Thank you, Chair McCabe. So just in regards to Cache Development's donations. So Cache Development's contacted the township to provide 2 donations to our community. The first donation is in the amount of $500, which they requested went towards the Arthur Lyons BMX and skateboard park. So very excited about that donation. And the second donation is in the amount of $1,500. And Cache has expressed that this amount can be directed towards a program and or a capital expense. They're leaving it up to committee and staff to decide where that $1,500 donation goes. So we just wanted to bring that forward for your information for committee.
Thanks, Mandy. And yeah, this is they're proving to be an interesting and generous partner. I think Cache Homes, excuse me, excuse me, and this is a most welcome donation. So yeah, it's kind of nice that they've kind of let us figure out where we want to put it, and I'm sure there'll be no shortages of areas where we can put this money towards. So that's good. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Milne, do you have any new business on the horizon?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Matt or Tom or Mike? Go ahead, Mike.
Just, I know you guys had the conversation around the ICE piece, and there's lots of unknowns as it relates to the existing stay-at-home order and what that looks like after the fact. I just wanted to share with Brian and Steve and the rest of staff. Yesterday's meeting I was part of included Dr. Mercer. The commentary there, and I think many of us knew this, but I wasn't 100% sure. If they lift the stay-at-home order, the existing stay-at-home order, we would return to the same state that we were in before the order. So that's where we go back to the color coding. And I hadn't remembered, but I was reminded that we were in red at that point, which restricted activity at our facility. So even if, you know, the stay-at-home order does not get extended past February 11th, we will be in red status. And typically that's at least a 2-week process before there's a change in terms of your color coding. So I think the direction that the committee has given is fine, but I just wanted, in terms of timelines, you know, before anything would actually happen, it's probably really late February if all things go very, very well as it relates to ICE usage. But that's just based on the conversation I was part of yesterday. So
Great, thanks for that, Mike. And yeah, we're hopeful, but the numbers, like we said earlier, are going in the right direction, and hopefully that continues. But red's not much better than where we're at right now. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I got a list.
Sorry, I can't hear you. We'll go to Tom. No. Go ahead.
Am I muted? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, just, I didn't highlight that the Lions did pick a sign at the meeting last week. So there is a sign that's picked. I meant to highlight that. I did not. The grand opening of the splash pad is subject to change. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the one thing that I did not raise on this meeting either is that staff are looking to Park and Play, who's going to be rebuilding the Optimistas Park, for the outdoor gym that the BIA has kind of signed up to. So
Okay.
we're looking just for a price from them, and if staff thinks it's reasonable, it'll depend on the money, kind of where we go from there. But you know, they're a core company that would know how to install that kind of equipment. So just something I wanted to throw out. The only other thing that I would throw out is that Mandy and Tom are very helpful at making me look okay. Yeah, I know that's a hard job though. That's the only other thing I would say.
Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, I was going to mention the lion sign, so thanks for that. Tom, go ahead if you have any new business.
I really don't have anything other than Matt's comments. I think Mandy and I are probably going to go over and give him a little bit of a buzz job for the hair, but
Come on, I'm trying to look like Steve. The Steve haircut.
Yeah, well, keep trying.
other than that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Matt. And I don't have anything else. But yeah, this, you know, I was thinking about this the other day after Matt and Mandy and I had a chat on Friday about this agenda, and it's amazing where we have come in such a short period of time from where we started just even 6 years ago when I first got elected to where rec was, and the meetings were not the greatest meetings, and we've had to make some hard decisions, and it's being reflected almost in every committee meeting that we have now. We've got the right people in place. We've got a good committee with Brian and Dan and I think. And yeah, the staff should be commended. And yeah, it's regardless of hair, I think you're doing a great job as well, Matt. And that all boils down to great leadership from the CAO as well. And I think we're all pushing towards the same point. And I wanted to, as chair, wanted to thank you for everything over the last couple of years as well. So that's all I have. And I will look to Brian to move for adjournment. I have a recommendation, excuse me, that the Township of Wellington North Rec Parks and Leisure Committee meeting of February 2nd, 2021 be adjourned at 9:59 a.m.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will second that. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone, for your
Thank you.
participation and great discussion.
Yep.
Have a great, safe day and
Have a great
stay
day.
warm.
Yep. Take